Again. Thanks. Hello, folks. It is the Instagram Collectors Roundtable. We are back with a special guest today. We wanted to talk about super collecting. I think that's really popular amongst a lot of collectors. And I know that the five of us have a lot of knowledge and experience in doing that. So we thought we'd sit down and have a chat. So first of all, coming back is Vinny. What's up, Vinny? How you doing?
What's going on, fellas?
Fresh back from his daughter's wedding last weekend. So hope that went well.
Yep, everything went well. Still living the married bliss 1 week later.
That's awesome.
That's the real battle, the first week. You know it's forever if you make it through the first week.
After the toilet seat gets left up for like the fifth time or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Miles is here. He has made it. Work schedule allowed it. So he showed up to give us all of his financial advice. Is that correct?
Yeah. Don't listen to mine.
Awesome. Well, glad you made it, dude. Jimmy also is here. I think he's not in the doghouse currently. So married life is going well for you. So that's nice.
No, I'm probably in the doghouse. I'm always in the doghouse. It's all good.
It's just a permanent residence.
It's permanent residence. Yeah, it's good. It's my 10 by 10 room is my doghouse here.
Well, at least there's cards in there, right?
Exactly.
Right. And oh yeah, no, I'm not going to show that comment on chat there, Miles. Sorry. And then we brought the master collector, the man who made me decide not to collect TomBarrasso when I got into hockey, and Jocelyn Tebow. I have Nick to thank for that. Nick, aka TomBarrasso Master Collector. Welcome, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, it's just really funny for me because when I got into hockey, I remember I was like, I named my account Tomcat Sports Cards. That was a nickname he had. I'm like, I'm collecting TomBarrasso. For about a week, I picked up Barrasso, and then I found Nick's account. And I was like, hey, how's it going? How come you collect TomBarrasso? His response was, I don't know. I like him. I was like, okay. This guy's pretty serious about it, though, because you can see his account. I mean, you got an amazing collection, dude. I mean, it's really incredible. And that's when I kind of decided, okay, maybe I don't want to compete against somebody. So I decided to collect Jocelyn Tebow.
you also saw those pictures of Nick lifting in his garage. So you're like, I don't want to compete with this guy. I don't want to get him upset. Eh?
I actually did not see that. I did not know he was.
That was you, Nick, right? I think once or twice you posted a few photos of you working out in the garage.
A while ago, I did. I had a pretty good day when I just happened to be wearing a Barrasso jersey. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, amazing account. I mean, everybody should definitely go check it out if you haven't already done that. I mean, I thought it was perfect to bring you here, Nick, to talk about super collecting because, you know, when I think about super collecting, I think of everything that you can get, right? I don't think about just like picking and choosing a couple cards that you like of a player. I think about getting the rainbows and getting the weird printing variations and errors, like covering all the bases. But, you know, where did the decision to collect Barrasso come from for you? I mean, I always find that to be fascinating.
So I wish I had a really cool story, but I don't. He was my favorite player when I was a kid. I mean, I started playing hockey when I was 4 or 5, and I was a Penguins fan, and he was my favorite player. And then throughout high school, he was always my favorite player, and I tried to, you know, collect what I could, you know, back then. But being 13, 14, or 15, not having much of, you know, disposable income, didn't have much other than his base cards. And then when I got back into collecting about 9 or 10 years ago now, I found a bunch of my old cards, and Barrasso was in there. I hopped on eBay, and I was like, Jesus, look at these cards. I mean, wow, there's cards that there's only one of them. That's insane. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to collect Mario Lemieux too. But then I saw how much his cards went for, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to stick to TomBarrasso. So just, you know, to shorten that, he was my favorite player as a kid. And I got all excited when I went on eBay when I was, you know, in my early 20s and saw a bunch of his cards. So that's pretty much it.
Any Barrasso memories from you three? Anything stick out?
The cup getting smashed in his pool. Back when I was about 16 years old during the 91, 92. That was the legend of lore That's why it started getting accompanied by the guy with the white gloves, because the cub got decapitated in TomBarrasso's pool, allegedly. So
Yeah,
that was the story back in the day.
I always thought Barrasso was cool because like he came out of high school to the NHL, and I know he won the Calder. Did he win the Vezina as well that year? His first year? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, Calder and the Vezina.
Yeah, Calder and Vezina in his first year, and a guy
When
in
he
my
was 18,
neighborhood. I know, crazy, eh? A guy in my neighborhood found a box of 84, 85 OPC singles. Someone tossed them in the garbage. He picked them up, and there was like a Barrasso rookie in there, and he was like the talk of the schoolyard. This was like 1995, and everyone was trying to trade him
That's
for
awesome.
that. So yeah,
Yeah, when I was a kid, about that same time, that was the holy grail of Barrasso cards. Was this OPC rookie had a book value of like $9 US, but to me, being 8 or 9 years old, I thought that was the coolest thing.
you're like, whoa, $9. That's like 2 weeks allowance.
And you had his cheapo Topps rookie card, which was like I think 5. So the OPG was.
The Topps.
What about you, Miles? Any Barrasso memories? I know you're a big fan of goalies too. So
I was just gonna say, like, start of the '90s, like you couldn't beat the Penguins, and it wasn't just Lemieux and Yager up front. It was like they built a team around Lemieux, and Barrasso was a big part of that. Like he came over from Buffalo, and like all the cards I have him, he's making a great save to keep the Penguins in the game, and just a great goalie. He was definitely a bit sharp in interviews off the ice, but he was a memorable guy, and like you were saying, like great setup. Guy always looked good on a card, so really great goalie.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, man, it's funny. And looking back, like I've watched a bunch of older Penguins games, and it's crazy. Like Lemieux, Yager did not backcheck very much. Like the defensive play, no, not at all. Like, the defensive play of the Penguins, and they had like offensive defensemen too. Like Barrasso really got left out to dry a lot. Like that game against the Islanders where they lost, like Healy stood on. Yeah, Healy stood on his head, but there was so many times where Barrasso was just kind of like left to dry in that game. Man,
you're talking about Game 7 when they lost in OT.
David Volek scored.
Oh yeah,
I watched that whole game. Like Healy was like unreal, but man, like awesome. they left Barrasso out to dry. Like so brutal.
When we're talking about that, I kind of compare it to how the Oilers and Grant Fuhr was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As far as, you look at Grant Fuhr's stats from back then. Obviously, the stats were different back in the 80s compared to now as far as the goals against and save percentage, but the stats weren't that great. You watch those guys. I mean, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 2-on-0s all the time. And Fuhr stood on his head, and I think Barrasso did too quite a bit. So
and both righties too.
Game is definitely,
you're right. It's definitely changed for sure, man. We were talking about that last week a little bit, Jimmy, about how like the goals against averages are so different.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's so bloated. Yeah.
But I don't know. My first Barrasso memory, other than him being on the Penguins poster, and I liked goalies, so he became my favorite player. I remember when I got my Topps rookie card. My dad bought it for me. That was a big deal, when I was like 4 years old, and I used to hide it like under my bed and hide it in different places in the house so I could look at it more when my parents didn't know. It was so funny. It was like, too bad my mom can't listen to this. She'd laugh because she always caught me and hit it again or something when I was in trouble. So, but I remember that card being a big time card, the Buffalo Sabres one. And I was happy to grab another copy of that when I got back into collecting, just to have the nostalgia, But I remember the dirty pads though. That was a big thing. Sorry, Nick. That was the other thing that stuck out. It was like he had like the setup with like the white pads where they were just dirty looking.
So cool.
Right? Oh yeah, I thought so too. But it's, what I was saying is, but when you look at his rookie card now, it's kind of an ugly card. Like the picture's not that good, and then there's the Sabres defenseman that's kind of featured almost as prominently as he is. So,
right.
But it's still one of 2 rookie cards. It's not like nowadays where there's 15 different patch rookies and then a bunch of different parallels of each one. So
And I believe he had like a league leaders card in that set as well, where it's just a headshot of him. I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, where he's 18, but he looks like 14.
Yeah, pretty
He's got,
much.
like,
Yeah.
Part down the middle of his
Yeah.
down the middle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, hockey card design has come so far. Oh my gosh.
Far.
I mean, I got a question too, and this is for everybody. So when you guys all decided to super collect your player, right? Like when you kind of got back into it. Now, Jimmy, you've always been collecting more or less, right? You kind of stopped a little bit. But Miles, if I remember correctly, you kind of recently like really got back into it when you pulled all your old cards out. Me, 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember with you, Vinny, but like what made you decide like this is going to be the player, this is going to be the path? Like, because when you look at eBay, when you first get back on there, we can all agree it's a bit overwhelming because there's everything on there, things you can't afford, can't afford, and everything in between that you want to afford. So like, and whoever wants to start, like what was it like navigating that landscape and deciding like, all right, this is going to be my collecting path now?
Yeah.
I'll start, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, it's just when I got back into it and found the couple cards that I had of his. Well, not a couple. I probably had 20 or 25 cards of his from the 80s and 90s. Dug those out, and when I hopped on eBay, I just got so excited when I saw all these like autograph cards and patch cards, and so I just got excited to see them, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to get them all. And then I saw that he had like 700 plus cards listed back then, and I'm thinking, yeah, probably not going to be able to get all that. So, but I just there was a collector from Sweden who had a pretty nice Barrasso collection, and I kind of viewed him as like competition. So I'm like, yeah, I want to eventually beat this guy. So,
hell, competition is a good thing in a way, unless he looks like Nick and he could just intimidate you out of collecting Barrasso.
Yeah.
But
it would, well, how much he spent on a lot of the higher end cards
right.
was not competition, just because he overpaid for a lot of stuff. But that allowed me to pick up all the cheapos until he got out of the hobby a few years ago, and I was able to chip away at some of his nicer cards.
Yeah, so I remember that guy. He was on Hobby Insider. He posted a lot of stuff because around like 2010, when Panini came back in, they had a lot of Barrasso stuff, and Between the Pipes had like some insane patches.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Autographs too, and I think his autographs were always SP'd. So yeah, no, I remember that guy, and I remember his collection. It was pretty nice for sure. So I'm sure you have most of that now.
He got out. I think he got out of the hobby in maybe 2016, at least that I know. He asked the people at Hobby Insider to delete his account, but he certainly. I shouldn't say certainly. He definitely had the biggest Barrasso collection until mine. So, not to sound like I'm bragging or anything. I just think I have the most Barrasso cards.
But I mean, that's good to have that be the goal, though, right? Like, I think when you have a focus like that, it really helps you understand exactly how you're going to collect, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And not with TomBarrasso. Like, if you're going to say Marty Brodeur or Patrick Waugh, that'd be a pretty tough goal to achieve. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Well, anyway, how about go ahead, Jimmy? I think you were speaking next. I mean, what made you decide that, or like, how did you know like Felix Potvin or Jim Carrey? That's gonna be it.
I think I was going to mention a part because you asked about navigating eBay.
Oh, right.
So myself, I think I mentioned I had a brief like where I was away from hockey. Like I was still collecting it a little bit, but I was collecting other like baseball comics, things like that for a couple of years. And I did a little bit of hockey, and then I decided around 2006 that I was going to start just focusing more perhaps on 90s stuff. And at the beginning, I was just putting binders together of goalie cards, to be honest. I didn't want to spend a lot of money because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it. And I just, going through my old kid stuff, I'm like, hey, it's kind of fun to sort the goalies out, put them into binders. And I enjoyed looking at them every night and going through those base cards. And it was fun, like finding more boxes in my house and then like pulling the cards out, sorting them out. And you know, it was very inexpensive. I could go on sport lots and get cards for like 25 cents and just add to the binder. And then I kind of thought, okay, well, I have maybe, 12 or 14 goalies that I'm doing right now. It's too much. Who are my favorites? And then I kind of I dwindled it down from that point on. But I also had an issue before with like being a completionist, and I like doing like insert sets from the '90s. So like even though Potvin is my favorite player, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do the whole set. And after a while, it like I don't know. I feel like for now, I'm more about getting those higher end items than being a completionist. Like I'd much rather have a smaller focus, buy less cards but spend more instead of building all these sets. Which I do love building sets, but at the end of the day, you need to have a lot of space for it, which I don't have. I'm sure one day I will, but I'd rather focus on the more premium stuff at the moment, as opposed to being a completionist, because that can get expensive being a completionist, and you might miss out on that big card that you've been waiting for because you just bought like $10-$20 cards when you could have had that one $200 card. So
Right.
Well, Miles, you definitely have a completionist approach to the way that you collect. I mean, am I right though? I mean, you've talked about like you like picking players that are like you can actually almost get everything, right? So, I mean, is that why you pick those players so you could like legitimately try to get one of everything?
Yeah, first off, I'll say that I'm way earlier on my journey than a lot of you guys. So, I got back into the hobby a couple of years ago, and yeah, I kind of like Nick was saying, you hop on eBay and there's just so many different options to look at and so many different cards. And I was like, how am I going to focus this collection? And I guess I started, with like Jeff Friesen was a player that I met once or twice growing up. He brought the cup home, got to touch the cup. Dwight King, I played minor hockey with Dwight King. And when I actually saw the cup that Jeff Friesen brought home, I think Dwight King was first in line to see the cup, which was pretty cool when he won it later. Maniluk's a distant relative of mine, and he only has like 40, 50 cards. And then I recently started a few different goalie PCs. Chris Westblom was the one, like he never played in the NHL, but again, I played minor hockey with him, so I've been kind of chasing his. And then I was like, I want some NHL goaltenders, and I want ones that not everybody's collecting.
Right.
And I'm Jimmy was talking about, why buy the bunch of cheaper cards so you could get the one big card. I'm like, well, you could have all those cheap cards. So I'm kind of the guy where it's like there's a balance between quantity and big names too at the same time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I don't think there's any problem doing that because I did that for the last, like 14 years. But I feel like where I am in my journey, I'm more interested in acquiring like those higher end cards now because I have so many lower end cards, and especially where I have a lot of cards coming through my hands continually. You're like, oh wow, I've seen this card like 25 times in the past 2 months. I'm ready to move on and try something different. But yeah, I mean, being a completionist, there's no problem with it. It's fun. I've seen some great collections where I think Nick, are those Barrassos on your wall there in frames behind you? Or is it all different stuff?
Yeah, those are all Barrasso stuff. I actually had another one up, and then I had a shadow box break today when I was trying to change some cards around in it. So,
oh no.
Yeah.
Hopefully the cards survive. But yeah, I mean, being a completionist is cool because it's nice to have all the cards kind of, put side by side in a binder or in a frame. It looks really good. Like I saw an almost complete Patrick Waugh collection of the '90s, like literally every card. And the guy just had it in binders, but it looked fantastic. Like it looks really cool to look at. So like I could go either way, but just where I am in my life right now, I find the higher end card might be a little bit more interesting to me. Right. So no offense. But also, Miles, wasn't the story you told me that the day there are scouts coming to see you play and you got hurt and they saw Dwight King and that's why he got drafted, right?
Yeah.
They came to see you, but that injury.
They came to see the lower level guys play, but since I couldn't be the big fish in the pond.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, we better go watch the level up and watch Dwight King win. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know that, Miles. Jeez, adds to the lore of Hockey card nostalgia, right?
Yeah. Well, I did score a couple goals on Chris Westbloom in a skills comp, and I've been telling you guys like that's why he didn't make the NHLs. His confidence is just broken. I hope he never watches this, but
Is that when he got stung by the bee and his eyes were swollen and he couldn't see? Yeah.
We got to get him on here, man. That would be the best thing ever to have you tell that exact story with him sitting in a picture in the podcast. It'd be great.
oh man, yeah.
Well, Vinny, I'm going to throw a question to you while you talk about your Lemieux collection, because you've talked about your reasoning behind Lemieux and him being your main collecting focus. But, coming from Miles and Jimmy kind of contrasting, the bigger cards and some of the smaller cards, I think any super collector appreciates even the base cards, right, of a player. I mean, does that give you just as much joy as collecting, the inserts and whatnot?
Absolutely. I want everything. I'm not going to ever get everything, but
right.
I created, it's almost done, my book here. This is all the stuff that I want, less autos and mems. So, and I have 5 binders that are filled with, your base cards, your medium level inserts, everything that I could find. So I'm getting close to 2,000 individual cards. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and your collection's killer because I've been going through it over the last couple of weeks, and I've seen some Lemieux in there, and I'm like, yep, those are some solid ones. The Dominion ones, I love those cards. But getting back. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say I didn't want to steal your thunder, but I didn't buy any Lemieux cards for probably like 2 years, and just recently, with the boom, I just looked through all my stuff I didn't need and sold some stuff and picked up some Lemieux. But his card prices are insane right now.
Yes, they
are. At least it's his higher end stuff, like absolutely insane. I used to be. I don't know how comfortable you guys are talking actual dollars. Is it okay to mention actual pricing?
We talk about it on here sometimes, right? I mean, yeah, we have.
Well, okay, because I used to be able to get Lemieux autos for like $50 or $60. Now, I mean, they're all well over 100, and I'm just not gonna. I don't want to pay that. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The good ones are in the $300 to $400 range, 500 some. It's pretty crazy. But for me, he was growing up in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. He was everything. Him and Iserman to me. I was a Penguins fan, number 1. Number 2 was Red Wings, and they were my end all and be all. So growing up, those are every book I have is just nothing but Penguins and Red Wings. And then, the other guys like Van Beesbrook, Potvin, Gilmore, I collected all the guys that I liked. Even if people didn't like them, I collected them because they were the dudes like Jeff Sanderson. I love Jeff Sanderson.
Me too. He's fantastic.
I mean, there's guys that a lot of people wouldn't think. Tony Amonte was another one.
He was so good, and he gets no hobby love whatsoever. And but those are like my fringe guys. But when my daughter and wife made the suggestion for me to get back in the hobby, it was like, oh, this could be dangerous. And, my youngest daughter, I should say, of my 3 daughters, and she's like, come on, Daddy, you can do it. And I'm like, are you sure you guys want me to do it? Go ahead. I said, and then it began. And I thought I was going to pack pull everything. I was going back and buying boxes and I'm going to pull everything. I'm going to buy a box of this, a box of that. Then I figured everything out over a year, because the first year of collecting was basically me sitting back and doing a lot of research. And then I realized you're not going to pull everything out of a box these days because the odds are completely different. A box of 91, 92 Upper Deck is not the same as a box of 05, 06 Upper Deck to 2021 Upper Deck. I read into all that, and then I had to rethink everything because all my logic was gone. So it's been a journey, and I learn stuff every day, and it's just I love the journey and I love the people, and that's probably more than the cards. That's why I come to this every week that I can, and I love looking at other people's collection and saying, I wonder if Lemieux has a card like that.
Do I know about it? Oh, Barrasso. I need more Barrasso cards. I need a Jeff Friesen or two. You know, it's those kind of things that just keeps the hobby fresh and new to me every day.
Right.
Big question for you guys though. The Mario Lemieux chocolate bar. Do you remember that in the 90s? It
Yes,
was called
the Bun
Bun.
Bar.
Oh gosh. Okay. Did you guys ever eat that bar?
Yes.
It was horrendous. It was like when you open up the wrapper, it was like already melted and all over the card, destroying the card. And that thing, you couldn't even get it down. It was brutal.
My aunt, the day they came out, she brought a whole box of them. And I wish I could find the box because I don't know where it went. And I remember getting the cards out of there, and I have them somewhere in here. And they were rough. There was different kinds too. All I remember is there was one with like maple in it.
Yeah, there's maple. I think there's like
a maple, and
there was
I'm
a
like,
caramel one. There was
the caramel one
like,
was decent.
That was okay. That was just messy.
Okay.
And there was one that was like just all nuts. It was just disgusting.
It was rough.
Oh man!
But the cards, I did it for the cards.
Oh, absolutely.
That's funny, Jimmy. Yeah, I didn't even know about that. I remember Joey Cora, my favorite baseball player, having a chocolate bar for 1 year, and I did have a few of those. They were just like milk chocolate, you know. But for some reason, Jocelyn Tebow, as good as he was, never had his own chocolate bar. So, it was a missed opportunity on the Canadians' parts for sure.
I feel like he should have had his own like something to do with like a hairstyling partnership with like
should have
like
some hair gel,
Head and Shoulders or Dippity Doo or something because he always had a good
Dep 7 or Dep 8 or whatever it was.
Yeah, he always had a good head of hair. Yeah.
Everyone forgets Lemieux probably could have endorsed cigarettes back in the day too.
Oh, on the dark,
allegedly,
crazy man.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Oh, he was. Come on, man.
He was
allegedly.
And the fact that he was as good as he was, it's just crazy. You never see that nowadays. Never see that nowadays. But I think when you think about SuperCollecting too, you have like Vinny just said, we all have something vested in those players. That's why I recorded the video I did the other day. Miles, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. I thought it was important, and I like hearing about why people collect certain players. I know Nick, you said it was pretty straightforward. He was my favorite player at the time, and it was just that's the guy you picked. And I think collecting somebody who's playing now, I have to have something vested in like their personality and their style of play. Obviously, them being on your team helps, even though Fleury is on the wrong team in my mind. There's so much to like about the guy. So I think that makes it exciting to collect that player even more rather than just like picking somebody who's got a cool setup, Yeah. So, anyways, I think that's huge for me is having something vested. And then Tebow, his setups were amazing, and he was a nice guy. So, I guess that's why I picked him. It was pretty simple, and not Barrasso. He's got more than Tom does. I know that as far as like the inserts and stuff. So I think that's why I kind of went that direction. But it's definitely exciting. I mean, what are some of the challenges though? Think about this, guys. Like when you're super collecting, we've talked about price, obviously, right? I think that's always going to be tricky right now. But like when I think of challenges, super collecting a player, like if I think about Tebow, is just you hit a point where you're like, I pretty much have everything I need, more or less, and then you're just stuck waiting for like the card to show up. Anybody else? I mean, what's another challenge? I guess I go to Nick. I haven't heard from him. Like Nick, what's the challenge now with collecting Barrasso? Because I mean, we've seen your rainbows and your printing plates and all these crazy low number cards. Like, where are you at now? That's a challenge.
So a lot of the kind of goes back to what we were talking about the atomic refractor earlier. Is there's still some cards from the late 90s and early 2000s of his that I don't have and that I've never seen. And so the odds of those, popping up on eBay or popping up on one of the forums, certainly not impossible, but pretty unlikely. That's the main thing. There's a few things. Number two would probably be the fact that over the past couple of years, the majority of the cards that he's getting from Leaf are multiplayer cards. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't have anything against multiplayer cards. In fact, I like multiplayer cards, but some of them just aren't that appealing, especially when there's, 5 or 6 parallels. And, those kind of cards, unless they're super low numbered, I would rather, not invest much money into. And third, and this the thing I've noticed most recently is I don't know if it just happens to do with the boom of the hobby and people with extra money laying around are coming into it now, but his higher end cards are going for a ton of money right now. I've gotten outbid badly, and I mean badly, on eBay over the past probably 6 months with some one of ones and one of fives. For example, his the National Treasures, the card that's got the little piece of the diamond in it. Well, this was I have the regular one that's numbered to 5, but I don't remember what the name is, but it's the parallel that's one of one. That went for like twice what I was willing to overpay for it. And his Emblems of Endorsement Cup Patch Auto just popped up on eBay, and some guy bought it off of eBay, and it was listed at way more than it's to me worth. So I'm like, okay, that's a great card. I'll put it on my watch list, but I'm not going to buy it at that price. Some guy actually bought it and then tried to flip it to me on Instagram for more than twice what he got it for on eBay. And I'm like, thanks for reaching out, dude. That's, more than what I want to pay. Thanks again. Good luck with your sale. But yeah, those 3 things. And I could probably think of more, but those are the 3 quote unquote issues that I've been running into.
It's funny you say, like, he's been on I'm just looking at his comps here right now, and like he's with multiple different players and like big name players. But then there's also one here. It's one with Patrick Ewing, Dan Marino, and Jose Canseco.
Yeah, that I have like the lowest numbered one. I think that one's numbered to 30, and it's a hideous card. It's not good look. It doesn't look good. I had a bunch of my cards laying around upstairs in my living room, and my dad was looking through them, and he's like, "They make basketball, football, and hockey cards together?" I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, there's Patrick Ewing and Dan Marino on this card." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that one." And it's a bunch of great players, all-time greats from 4 different sports, but just like an ugly card. And I mean, if I can find one on eBay for a few bucks, sure, but I'm not gonna drop any big cash on something like that.
Oh yeah.
But that's a really like. Not only is it multiplayer cards in the same sport, it's different sports now. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, to me, that doesn't. It just doesn't excite me really. It's like, oh, that's cool, I guess, but nothing that makes me say, "Wow, I really want that card."
Makes it tougher to complete too, because now you're competing with collectors for all those guys, like cross sport even.
Because I can only imagine how much Dan Marino cards sell for. I mean, I know very little about the football side of the hobby, but his cards probably sell for decent money.
Right. Well, to Paul's point too, I mean, knowing that you're a super collector of somebody is great. I experienced this with A-Rod. There'd be like a card that would be up on eBay for $60-$70. I'm like, that's not really where I'm at. Somebody would buy it and then reach out to me and say, "You want this for $150?" I'm like, come on, man. Like, I know you just bought that off eBay. Like, so I think you do run into that a little bit, like people, you get the word out on what you want, and then other people might want it too. So you do have to kind of like figure out how much advertising, like, I need this card. This is my number 1 card. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely a tough battle to play, to pick in a sense.
Yeah. Can I add something to that? It'll only take me a few seconds.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Okay. So my most wanted card is the rest of his nameplate from 13-14 in the game used. I have 4 of the 8, and they're all one of one, so there's only one of each. And I've never seen the other 4. So I've actually thought the same thing, Matt, that like everywhere I've ever posted, people know this is my number 1 card. So if somebody's going to go to some convention or some show and pick it up for a good deal, and then send me a message on Instagram and say, "Hey, I'll give you this for whatever they 3 times whatever they paid for it." Mm-hmm. So it's an awesome point that you bring up, and I've kind of thought, hey, do I need to tone down, as you put it, advertising what cards I really need? But at the same time, I also like people to know that I need them, because if it's like one of you guys or somebody that I know from Instagram or one of the sites that I trust, hey, this person can pick it up for me if they happen to see it, and I trust that they're not going to try to flip it 3 times what they paid for it. That's a really good point, though.
You have a guy in this group that finds everything for everybody, and that man is Jimmy. And he's a blessing and a curse because, was it Miles, you and I were talking about, like, oh yeah, Jimmy just hooked me up some cards, which is dangerous because now I got to spend more money. Like, Jimmy finds everything almost. Like, he's literally found 4 or 5 Tebows that I've never seen on eBay for me. I'm like, dude, you're the man.
Jimmy's also realized that I have like a unofficial PC for like Ryan Smith and like a few Oilers. He just throws those cards at me too.
That's great, dude. I mean, Jimmy, do you agree with what he's saying before we go to you, Vinny, about like you got to be kind of careful with like getting out there your big wants, or are you cool with that just so you can get it to more people?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. Perhaps it's something I don't really think about too much anymore, but I definitely thought about that many years ago with certain players. I mean, Potvin has some competition, and Carey, there's some people trying to collect him now. Like Carey, there was no competition for a long time, so it was just me buying, and it was just amazing. But I definitely with some players, like I know Barrasso, there's a lot of guys that collect him, and it's not always. Like I posted a joke today, in Step Brothers, when they give that awkward hug, I said, a player collector you're competing with meeting for the first time, because it's like not always like welcoming people with open arms. It's like, oh, you collect Barrasso too, like are we allowed to swear here? I kind of swore, but it's okay. But anyways, no, it's one of those things that if you think about it too much, it might be more of a hindrance. Like you said, Nick, it's good to put it out there that you're looking for a certain card. And again, it's not the end of the world if someone says, oh, here's this Barrasso number to 250 you need, it's $300, and you're like, sorry man, it's okay, thanks for bringing it by me anyways. Because that's one thing I've learned about cards. Unless it's like a 1-on-1 or like a number to 10, you'll see it again. Yes, you might have to wait. You might have to wait 5-10 years, but again, I think all of us love the hunt. Big reason why we're collectors. Like that thrill of getting a card that you've always wanted for a great price is way better than overpaying. Because when you overpay, you don't enjoy it as much. It's so much better just to wait for that right opportunity. Again, there's certain cards that you're like, whatever, I don't care. I'll pay whatever. I want this so bad. Like I'm sure with those nameplate cards, Nick, like if someone said, okay, I have the last 4 you need, it's $1,200, you'd be like, okay, sure. You just want to finish the plate. But again, if they said I have one of them and it's $800, you'd be like, no thanks, it's okay. I'll pass. But it's definitely it's in the eye of the beholder. And I think at the end of the day, it's just a hobby and it's important to have fun with it. So you know what, if you're putting out what you need out there and someone's trying to take advantage of you, then it's, just say, hey, thanks for showing this to me, I'm not interested, and then just move on.
Exactly. It was like the guy that bought the emblems of endorsement patch auto. He's like, first of all, I shouldn't say irritated me, but it kind of irritated me when he's like, oh yeah, Barrasso doesn't have a lot of this, he doesn't have a lot of that. And I'm thinking, I know, man, I know what he's got, I know what he doesn't have. And then, but he throws this number out at me, and I told him I didn't, want to pay that. And he says something like, it wasn't rude, but said something along the lines of, some cards are just worth that much. And that's exactly how I answered him, Jimmy, I'm like, to me, it's a hobby. And I don't want to pay that for a card.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then after that, you went to the garage and benched 400 pounds instead of 350.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. But I get it. I all the time I have people messaging me trying to sell me their collections or cards and saying, oh, it's a fantastic price. I'm like, hey man, like you want like $1,000? I see $400 worth of cards here. Like, I'm not interested. Like, good luck on the sale. And then they always have to say something insulting or something. Right. And I'm just trying to be polite because, at the same time, like, I like to educate people because, I get so many people that like are picking up their collections and trying to sell it to me for an insane price. So I'm like, I could just say no, but I want to be like, hey, like, you're not going to sell your collection for what you're asking for. Like, this is what it's worth. Like, realistically, like, I'm not interested, but realistically, this is what you could get for it. So some people receive it well. Others are like, say some not very nice things, but I'm like, whatever.
I love
like
when you
that,
get the car salesman pitch. Sorry, I was just gonna say I love when guys reach out and they give me the car salesman approach. Like, this is so rare, you're never gonna see this again. I'm like, dude, have you seen my page? Like, I'm pretty sure I got a pretty good handle on what's going on here. Like, thanks, but like, you don't have to do that. But sometimes it's fun to just let him go. It's like, all right, let's see where he's gonna go with this. I have some fun with that.
The Jack of All Trades documentary.
I love that. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
It was very cool. But the main guy, finds his old collection and he brings it to this card show and he makes the comment that, oh, card shows aren't like what they were when I was a kid. There's not many people here. And then that a couple guys just flat out say, no, thanks, not interested. And then one guy's like, yeah, I'll give you $10 when it's, he had nothing but junk, junk era cards, early 90s.
Yeah.
That he fortunately thought was, I felt bad for the guy because he thought he was, sitting on a gold mine of cards, but it was just essentially junk. And, a lot of people, I'm sure the LCSs and brick and mortar card stores are getting that all the time right now.
Yeah.
People go to their garages and attics and pulling out all these cards that are worth nothing and saying, hey, I'll sell you this box of cards for $500 when there's, realistically a couple of 50-cent cards in there and then a bunch of stuff you couldn't give away, not even on sport lots.
I mean, to that point, though, I will say that I've told all the other guys this, the reason I love the hockey community 10 times more than the baseball community, now that they're bad people, they don't have an appreciation for those cards. I mean, you see people putting up posts on Instagram of a base card, but there's this crazy story behind the base card when they were at the game. They remember seeing that goal in that picture, and you just see how in-depth people go even over a base card. I think has kind of made me appreciate, again, when talking about super collecting, it's made me appreciate when I have a base card of Fleury or Tebow. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a story behind the setup that he's wearing, or that was his first game as a Canadian, or things like that. So I think that's where hockey has things going in the right direction still. And when you're super collecting, you have to appreciate those cards still. I mean, Vinny, have you ever ran into a picture like that on a Lemieux card? Where it triggers a memory? I know you've got to have a few of those.
91, 92 Fleer Ultra. It's the card. It was Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Guz's Corner. My brothers and I went in there. We bought they bought football and baseball. I bought 5 packs of hockey, and 91, 92 is just it's what locked me in the hobby. It's probably what I go back to memory wise, because it takes me back to a simpler time of, I do this for the reason I do it. I was with my brothers. We all loved this. We probably spent 6 years of our lives deep into the sports card realm in the 90s. And it's a common ground we have to this day. My brother collected Nolan Ryan. My other brother collected football his football stuff was crazy. I mean, from 50s on up. And it's the nostalgia for me. It always will be. It's chasing the story more than the card, because at this point I have my Lemieux rookie. I got a PSA 7. I paid $105 for it. I don't care about anything else. Everything's just a journey. I won't overpay for anything. If it's a 101, 105, whatever, I don't care. If I can grab it, so be it. It's just how I roll with this hobby. I'd rather sit on 7 podcasts with a bunch of guys talking or ladies, like we had Connie, 2 weeks ago, talking about this hobby and just having a fun old time. That's what it is for me. So it's that card that encompasses all that.
Awesome. I mean, Nick, I'm curious, because we've all had a chance to share our experiences on Instagram. What's that been like since you've hopped on there? I mean, has it been positive for the most part?
Yeah, I've 99.5% positive. I can really only think of one negative experience, and it was just some kid. I'm assuming a kid based on how he typed, just being a a pain about prices and that one sale thread. But it's I've loved it. You know, met a lot of cool people, and I admire the easiness of it. I used to make these posts on Hobby Insider and Blowout Cards and Sports Card Forum and other sites, and I still post there, but it's just easier this way to show off your cards. I mean, I log into I store most of my cards in Flickr because it's free, and I save it to my phone and I make the post, and it takes me like a minute and a half, and I can post 5 cards in that minute and a half, and 2.5, 3 minutes if I want to type a little a couple sentences or paragraphs about the card or about the set or whatever. But the main thing is what everybody has mentioned here is just meeting people and hearing and reading the stories. A lot of nostalgia. And Matt, I agree with you 100% that the hockey community, granted 95% of my experience in the hobby has been with the hockey community. It seems like they appreciate the cards more, whereas baseball especially, and basketball a little bit. Football I think is okay. But baseball and basketball, everyone just wants to flip the cards, money. And not that there aren't flippers in hockey. And everyone likes to buy a card for cheap and sell it for more, but it just seems like baseball and basketball, that's all a lot of the people want to do. But, like you said, Matt, it's perfect. Like when you see a base card from useless set of 91, 92 Bowman or something like that, where you couldn't give the card away, but that card means something to somebody. I think that's cool.
Yeah, agreed. That has got me more excited about collecting hockey than I think I ever was about baseball. My base card binder of A-Rod is put away. I rarely pull it out. It was more of a completionist type thing. Like, okay, I want to make sure I have all these. But when I had, was collecting Tebow and I made that decision, I had a checklist and I went down and I checked off every base card I got and which ones I needed. And it was just so much more fun to collect that way because it takes the emphasis off of I got to buy the Zenith Z Gold. That's my only card that I care about. Who cares about the base card? Like, no, they need to mean something too.
Now, Matt, if I can ask you a question about A-Rod, do you know how many listed cards he has?
Well, I only care about Mariners cards, so he only has around 2,000 cards that were made from when he became a rookie to his last Mariners issued card. I think it's just terrible to see him in another uniform, but he's got a lot, especially all the modern Yankees patch auto nonsense that I could care less. Yeah, it's that focus though has allowed me to get what I have. Because if I collected A-Rod in general, oh my gosh, I would just be overwhelmed. It'd be like collecting Wayne Gretzky. I couldn't even know where to begin, but yeah,
me neither.
For sure. Dude, crazy. Wouldn't we all agree? I can think right now, one of my favorite cards in my collection is a base card. It's the Tebow Pinnacle 93-94. My dad bought me that card. That was my first Tebow card ever. I wish I had the original. My stepdad got me in trouble and threw all my cards away at one point, but we'll just not even talk about that anymore. But that card means just as much to me as the two biggies that came in 2 months ago. So that's definitely one of my favorites. Miles, Jimmy, do you guys have a base card that's one of your favorites?
Well, I could stick with Mario Lemieux, but when Vinny was talking about the Fleer Ultra one, I was thinking about the Kraft Dinner one where he's holding the cup above his head. I absolutely love that card, and I can actually recall where I got it. My grandma was actually making me Kraft dinner for lunch at the old farmhouse, and she called me over and said, "Hey, is this guy any good?" And she flipped the box over, and it was that card, and I was like, "Give it to me now." You bust out the Crayola scissors and do a hack job of cutting it out, and I still have my original one somewhere. I have a factory cut one somewhere as well, but I love that card, and for me, it just thinks I think back to the innocence of childhood and what collecting meant to me back then. Just we're going through those old Kraft Dinner cards especially, but yeah, that Mario Lemieux one is one of my favorite cards for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Miles? Are you digging it out for us?
Yeah, I'm digging a couple out actually. First one, I'll show the UD exclusives one, but I have the regular one. It's just on ComC.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I got back into it, like there's Dwight King. he scored in the, it's every kid's dream to score in the Stanley Cup Finals, and this is that card. And it's just like a great shot. It's Madison Square Garden. It's the big time. A kid from my hometown scored a goal in the Cup Finals, and that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then other ones, I've got a bunch of Friesens that, again, when I was lucky enough to meet him, I'll see if I can find one of the several, where it's like, anytime that you've handed a card over to a player and they've signed it and handed it back to you, those are always fun. So those are ones that I have a lot of memories of. I have like 8 or 10 Friesens that were signed in person, and he also has a great signature, so that goes a long way too.
Love that card design, man. Holographics. That was such an amazing set when it came out in '99 for baseball. I remember it quite vividly. So awesome. Now, Vinny, you talked about the Mario Ultra card, right? But I think, is there any other base cards that really stick out to you, or is that just like the end all? I don't know if we have time for all those, but
no, but that's a stack from as Dave Archer likes to call them, his kid cards.
Nice.
And these are the stuff I had from when I was growing up. So I'll just show one. So there's the 9091 OPG Premier first year. These were like $6 or $7 a pack back then. So when I pulled these two out of there that I still have separated from everything else, those to me, that's the history of it. That takes me back to, I was a youngin' back then, and it just I just sworn with nostalgia of, I got those at Scott's Cards that was next to 4-Star Pizza, and I could tell you he was wearing a blue shirt that day, and he had the craziest perfect mullet. It was awesome, and I could just see the guy in my head, and he always wore a dress shirt and blue jeans. And I just remember his shot was all cases. It's those kind of things that, it takes me back 30 years, and I'm just like, I'm in my happy place. So I think that's what it does for me, to think about the story. Even if I pulled this card now, I think back when I pulled this first one 30 years ago.
That's awesome. That's what it's all
It
about.
is awesome.
Nick, what about you, Nick? I mean, you talked about, right? You had the base cards and stuff growing up. I mean, do you have one that sticks out to you? I don't know if you have it with you, but if we can probably picture it.
Yeah, just give me like 30 seconds and I'll see if I can find it. Well, I know I can find it. Give me 30 seconds.
I just want to zoom in on that wall right now. Just take a look at that real quick. That looks like fun. Oh, Lordy. Yeah. There you can see RRSO. So we see the 4 that he has, the nameplates. Awesome.
Like I said, I've never come across any of the other 4. So, all right, so bear with me, guys. I'm going through my what did Dave call them? Kid cards?
Yep.
I think I keep my kid cards in a binder.
I think it's so important while he's looking for that. I mean, he's got all those cards on display. I'm totally in the camp of like, put some of your cards up for people to see, man. They're not meant to be in boxes all the time. The autographs and stuff, yeah, maybe I get that, but people need to see cards, not be in boxes.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I have buddies and family and stuff over that don't care about cards, you can tell they don't care at all.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, what the hell am I doing here? Where the heck is it?
Hey, Jimmy, that shelf behind you on your the right side of your head, I think some hockey cards need to be on display there, dude. That looks like a perfect display area.
There's I actually started, I switched it over. There was like goalie mask figures, some cards, and last night I cleaned it off, and there is cards in there currently, but it's only about like 25% full. I'm doing a setup of game used cards.
Cool.
Because I have like some really nice, patch cards that I'd love to share. And actually, I've been going through cards during this episode and show some off to you guys.
Yeah, I think it's always good to show a few off too at the end. I always enjoy that. I think the people do too. Got to give them what they want. Miles, this is your weekly reminder that there's a card on ComC that I'm still disappointed isn't in your cart. I've talked about this card so many times, and I'm going to buy it and keep it for myself and do what Nick talked about and offer it to you for like 5 times more. How's
The
that
stamp
sound?
of approval.
Yes. Did you
Yeah.
finally get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I know who's gonna bring it to me then, though. In that case.
Yeah, but for like $100, I mean, I should be what some of those guys do and like get it and say only trading for a Marc-Andre Fleury letter patch auto out of 5 or something. Like people do that sometimes. I'm like, there's no way you're going to find that specific card for that card. Like the odds are like incredibly low, but whatever floats their boats, right?
I was looking through some of the comments. It's a good one. I know you collect Barrasso, but I really need this card for my set. Would you be willing to move it? How do you react to those folks?
That's good.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because that's why I like to have duplicates of cards.
Right.
Ultimately, it would really depend on the card. Because I mean, I can appreciate set collectors, and in the end, like I've always said, like somebody messaged me recently with something similar. I was about a Crosby patch auto that I posted, and
I remember that.
But I said cards, but it's all any card is available for the right price, and that's I don't like to like put cards like hold them hostage, but I would tell them if you send me a really good offer, I would consider it.
Right.
Oh, finally found the card.
All right.
Sorry, it took me a while here.
Oh, no worries.
So it's nothing special. I can't remember if it's 97 or 98 finest.
95, 96 finest.
That's
okay. My bad.
Yeah.
I had this. I pulled it from a pack, and the book value back then was probably 40 cents. But I was so jazzed. You would have thought that I just pulled a, like a Gretzky auto patch or something. I was so happy, and I still have. I mean, that's the copy that I pulled. 25 years ago. So, awesome, but again, it's the card you probably couldn't give away now. But like we've been talking about, it's just nostalgia and memories.
I have the same connection. I'm looking at my shelf over there. There's a Joey Cora Metal Universe from '96 that's worth like 25 cents. And when I pulled that when my dad visited me on vacation during Christmas vacation in Alaska, we high-fived each other and celebrated like we pulled King Griffey Jr.'s autograph or something like that. That kind of a memory gets imprinted in you, and I don't care how cheap the card, it stays. It doesn't matter. The card is priceless. So that card will never, ever leave my collection. If I sell 95% of everything, I'll never get rid of that card. So, yeah, I appreciate stories like that big time, man. It makes me appreciate the little cards. You know what I mean? That's still important to do because I've been a little bit spoiled lately, and when you post nice cards like that, you're like, okay, I still care about the little stuff. You have to. But Jimmy, you said you had some cards. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go for it.
No, I was just it goes along with what you were saying. You and I had a conversation in our DMs about you appreciated that I took this as a really good compliment that I liked the big boy cards, but I also like the the base cards, and I do. And Vinny, you'll appreciate this as a Lemieux collector. I bought either 87 or 88, super cheap Lemieux, inserts and low end base that were like between 18 cents and $1.25 off Sport Lots maybe 3 weeks ago. So I mean, there's nothing in there that's worth more than $1. But when that package came in, I was more excited to open that package than I had been, in probably at least 6 months of any any card that I got. So I just, not to say I like anything, not saying I like the cheapos more than I like expensive cards or vice versa, but it's just it's nice to see people appreciate the lower end stuff, which you don't always see.
As you wrote, you're not a hockey card snob on your post, and that's why I enjoyed that post. I was like, that's whether that's a ton of Friesen, Barrasso, Fleury, Potvin, that's what makes the card world go around.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Well, since we're kind of getting right at the hour on the dot, I figured we might as well show off a few cards and talk about them. We super collecting. We all have a wide variety of stuff. We have stuff from I know Jimmy's got one, so I won't steal his thunder, but he picked up a very, very nice pot van lately. Those are not all the time, so I think it's nice to show off, kind of a little bit of everything. So. And then Miles has the 101 Jeff Friesen letter patch auto that he's going to show, right? Does that exist, by the way? Because I would love to see something like that pop up. Because
I don't know if it exists for him.
What's his rarest card?
Well, I guess it depends on whether you count like the in the game vault or whatever. If those are true 1-of-1s.
No, not really.
Not really. Then probably
know.
out of 5 or something.
Probably like the mirror platinum from certified, I would imagine. Would probably be the rarest Friesen. That wouldn't be like in the game or anything like that. But yeah, actually, because I've already posted my pot vin up, I wanted to share something else. So this is, since we're talking about super collecting, I know we've talked about player super collecting, but we haven't talked about set super collecting. So I am a big Pacific fan, and I started collecting the 2000-2001 titanium set. This was probably around 2008-2009. For me, it was historical because it was the first set that offered one game used card per pack. And I thought that was really cool. It was just like a really historical piece because it grew the industry like crazy to the point that we have something like the Cup that, it tins like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And what I really like about the set is, there's sticks, there's patches, there's jerseys. So this is a Lemieux stick card, which is quite nice.
That's awesome.
Yep.
But then you have someone like, for example, Sandy McCarthy, who was a good NHL player, and he's actually getting a nice stick card.
Right.
So then there's things like there's patches, and the patches are really cool because they this one's numbered to 100, but you have someone like Rob Bray, for example, who actually play live. He looked pretty good player, but it's numbered to 400. So there's lots of different things. Like there's a nice Rico Fata patch card that's like 4 colors, 3 colors, and then you got sticks with nice TPS Joe Sakic stick, which those TPS responses were amazing sticks for anyone who played. When those came out, like the feel of those sticks were like incredible. And they also had dual jerseys, which were only numbered to 100. I think there's a Lemieux one. This is the Sakic and Forsberg.
Nice.
And yeah, it's numbered on the back. It's hard to see. It's really small at the bottom in gold. But yeah, it's just a really fun set to collect. And I have, I think it's 150 some odd cards for the game used set. I'm only missing 5 or 6 out of that. And out of the patches, I probably have about just over 50% of the set.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I haven't really added to it much over the last 5 years. I did find the Kolzig patch is numbered to 50 copies, and I'd never seen a copy, and I actually found one at the flea market. I'm gonna grab it off the back shelf there.
The flea market, he finds everything there, man. That's amazing.
It is cool how just at the most random places, most random times you can see stuff like that. That's just it's one of the things about the hobby.
Absolutely. No, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff people probably have, right? None of us would.
So this is like a major holy grail, and when I started collecting this set, it was like really, really popular, and I was battling with people for cards. This is numbered to 50, which that's just a crazy, really tough card. It's nice. It's 3 colors. I got this for a great price. I know if I listed this, I could get a large sum of money for this card because there's Kolzig collectors, but there's also people who still collect this set. It's actually quite popular, and there's certain cards that you just can't find, and the Kolzig is one of them. So it's just, for me, it's just a neat set because it's historical, and just the fact that it's featuring those hardworking players like Sandy McCarthy, Rob Ray, but then you'll have all the superstars as well, and you can just get some incredible cards, some patches, and yeah, I agree. The 2001 O2s are nice as well. I might actually have one sitting right here that I pulled myself. Yeah, here it is. That's the 01 O2. So that's a Mike Modano number to 216. I pulled this card myself.
That's
and
awesome.
there's another player on the back. I think there's like Pierre Turgeon or something, but it's like on the back there. It's just usually you only got one nice patch,
Mhm.
and it was usually on the front. So this is a really nice Modano card. I pulled it myself. I actually have a Herbe Ron Francis coming in, and the Herbe is just insane patch. It's like 3 colors. The Pacific stuff is fun because it's not too expensive and they're nice display pieces.
Poor Turgeon.
Yeah,
Poor Turgeon gets
nice.
no hobby love from either like the
Oh,
Hockey
no.
Hall of Famer from us.
No, he doesn't.
Are those the ones that have Nick? Those that have Herbe on the back as well, right?
Yeah, one of them. It's funny that you brought that up because when I actually took this one out of one of my shadow boxes to replace it with something different, and this one actually has a nice Herbe patch too.
Oh, that's
Wow,
nice.
look at
Yeah,
that.
nice.
Wow.
This one's got, but these are both one color patches. Barrasso. You guys, yeah, my tablet sucks. There we go. Barrasso, and then randomly Jeremy Roenick on the back.
Yeah.
What the heck?
It's nice when you got like
odd combination.
When you got players like were on the same team and it made sense. It was pretty cool, but then they would do like mixes of players like Roenick and Barrasso. But whatever, man, it's cool. It's fun to collect. That's what I like about Pacific. They were a little different. Things were they're creative and they did things that might not have made sense. But Matt, after your interview with Mr. Kramer, a lot of things make sense. So really cool.
They just did stuff for fun, man. They did stuff for fun. Definitely looking forward to talking to him again for sure.
Kramer, that used to the bigwig of Pacific. Is that who you're talking about? You talked?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I did more than that, but we can talk about that after we're off air because I know we're showing cards and stuff. But it was pretty cool, man. I'll have to tell you about it. It was pretty sweet. So again, I think the set collector, like you were saying, Jimmy, that's something that's more prevalent now in my mind than I thought of before. And so for me, I've always been a player collector. So I see all these cards go for big money. I'm like, why did I get outbid on this? I'm like, it's probably a set collector. Like a flurry that ended yesterday or Friday. I had no chance. It was way higher than I wanted to pay. I was like, well, had to have been a set collector or a guy that didn't have it that likes Marc-Andre Fleury. So that you're kind of playing both of those when you lose a card. You're like, well, did I lose that stamp of approval because of Tebow collector or because the set, which is an amazing set, right, Miles? It's an amazing set.
Yeah, there's a niche part of the hobby where people love like a certain set and they will collect. That's all they collect.
Right.
So like just say someone likes the Ultimate Collection, they'll just if there's like a certain player they like, because there's different color patches, they'll just buy everything. For a certain player, they just want like that same card, they love it, different patch, they just want to keep on buying multiple copies of it, and that's what they collect. And that I'm starting to see that more getting more popular these days, where people are liking a certain release and then they just try to buy everything of it and they buy multiples.
Right.
And they're aggressive too with their prices.
Yeah, you gotta expect to pay a little bit more than you're comfortable with. I think when you go after certain cards, I've had to learn that the hard way. I think we all have, right, in some way or another, where you're not expecting to get outbid, but somehow you do, and you're just shocked. You're like, how? Like, who is looking for that card? And for me, it's tough. I think for all of us that collect goalies, never mind, is goalie collectors in general like nice goalie cards, whether it's TomBarrasso, Marc-Andre Fleury, Jack Campbell, or Justin Tebow, Byron Defoe. Like, there's a collector for goalies in general that you're always competing with too. So it's crazy out there. Miles, do you have any cards you wanted to show off though? I figured we'd kind of go around. Anything that came in recently? There's one that I'm hoping is there. Like, I'm hoping it's there. I don't know if it's there or not, but
all these ComC cards I've just been collecting, and then I eventually we'll ship it, but I should get it sometime in 2025. So, if we're still doing the show, then maybe I'll show them off.
Well,
But I'll show off a couple from. So I started PCing Brathwaite. So Jimmy, you'll recognize these. Jimmy sent me, because he used to PC Brathwaite, and he sent me some pretty awesome ones. So he sent me UD exclusives, 0102, and you see the number. That is his jersey number 40.
That's
Sweet.
sick.
So that, I'm showing it there.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
there we go. So that's just a sharp looking card. Great design that year. And then he sent me.
Those Blues jerseys back then were awesome. I loved those Blues jerseys.
I remember winning, I think it was the home jersey, the white one, at a hockey tournament when I was a kid, and I was so pumped.
That's cool.
And then he sent me this patch, right?
Cool.
Just a sharp looking patch.
Flip it over.
2001.
He looks like Cisco, the guy from the Thong Song, with his hair like that. Oh man, I had that card forever. I probably had it for 15, 16 years.
And it's a patch out of 106. Love
Wow.
it.
It's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. That's going to be a fun collection to see you put together, because we were chatting about 2-3 weeks ago, Miles, and we were looking at all the sets that he's in for Pacific, especially. There's a lot of cool cards out there that you can
He
get.
looks great too.
That's awesome. Sweet. Yeah, well, he played for the Flames and the Blues. I mean, they have some of the coolest looking jerseys on cards as far as like goalie setups, with the blue and the yellow and red and yellow. So yeah,
I've got a post on his masks coming out tomorrow, and the same mask designer did Barrasso's mask, his main one with the kind of the penguin side there.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
I found that pretty interesting too. So
awesome. What about you, Vinny? You got some cards to show us?
Yeah, I actually have two, and I like to call Instagram Inspirationgram, because Pop's collection and I have discussed, we look at everybody's stuff and we're like, man, that's a good card. Dave, Steve, we've all talked about this, but looking at Nick's collection for Barrasso, so he had his Lemieux in the case, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, ooh, those interest me. So I went out, and here's the first one. This is Dominion, number to 25.
That's a great set.
Nice.
wow.
So this just came in. So
And he
it's a
paid
three-color.
$40 for it too.
No,
Wow.
no, I did not. But the funny thing is, that is the other one's in there. I started out with a different patch, but then this one came in. All I wish it was. This is numbered to 66. This is National Treasures.
Awesome.
And I just wish this patch was white or black. Actually, with this background, it would have been killer if it was this gold from this uniform or the black from the uniform. But I have only seen this pop like 2 or 3 times. So I just grabbed it with my eBay bucks and said, you know what? I'll take it. Now, if one pops with the gold from the sleeve or the black, I'll be grabbing it. But those two, that's like I said, when I see stuff on other people's accounts, it gets the juices flowing. It says, go research this. Go try to find that out there. So, thanks, Nick, for posting that case of the Lemieux stuff. And then I went out there and started hunting for it.
And
That's
that 2010-11 Dominion set, one of my all-time favorite sets. And
absolutely.
It's funny that you mentioned that Lemieux card, because I bought one of those same cards, the patch number to 25 on eBay. I'm just waiting for it to come in. I overpaid, but I really wanted it. So
you were my competition on that one.
Oh, so did you get it like recently?
This one I got recently. This one here. The other one I have that's black and white. I've had it for about 3 or 4 months, but there was another one of these to 25 I was hunting after. But I'm glad you won it. I'm glad I lost to someone who appreciates it.
Yeah, and I'm happy they both, if I recall correctly, went for about the same price, right?
Yep. This one was a buy it now, so I think I did well on that one.
Okay, then I wasn't your competition because the one that the seller had two of the same, like two of those, and they were both for auction. So I got them, and somebody else got the other one. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's see, Nick, you're still digging through cards there. I do have a few that I set out here that kind of encompasses everything we talked about. You guys talked about Panini, and I was really happy to get a base card from National Treasures. They only did it 1 year, so I just love the design on those, man. Like they just look awesome for a base card.
Awesome.
So I was really pumped to get that, and then we talked about cards that mean a lot. It's funny, I don't have the base card of this, but if you guys, any of you Penguins fans, know what picture that's from, that was right after he made the shoulder save. One of the best saves I've ever seen in my life. So that card certainly means a ton to me. But we've talked about like setups with goalies, and we lost Jimmy. Did he? Oh, he messaged saying he had to go. Right? Yep. I've decided which Fleury setup in general is my favorite, and it's really tough because he's got a lot of them out there. But for me, his 06-07 setup with the really yellow pads, that one seems to be the one that sticks out. So here's a SP limited parallel. That setup right there, I like that style of mask, and I love those pads. And then. Beautiful. The next year, he used the same pads, but he used the white mask, and this might be one of my favorite masks that he ever had. Let's see if it'll focus in. It's kind of got like a white brick look to it. So with the yellow pads, for sure, those 2 years, back-to-back years, are my favorite Fleury setups for sure. So I was really happy to find one. This one actually came from a guy in Anchorage, Alaska. I got it like 2 days after I bought it. I couldn't believe it because I didn't see where it was coming from, and then it said going out for delivery. I'm like, what the heck? I just bought this thing. Things take forever to get to Sitka. So yeah, dude was up in Anchorage, and I got it, I think, for $10 or something like that. But
awesome.
Yeah, nice. Fun to chase those down, because Fleury's got a lot of, he doesn't have any 90s stuff, obviously, so I have to really pick and choose what parallels I'm going to force myself to go after, because there's a lot. There's a lot for sure. Anything come in recently that you'd like to show, Nick?
Not really. Most of my favorite cards are in my shadow boxes, which are kind of a pain in the butt to take apart. And I actually, like I said earlier, broke one earlier. But these are all in my binder. I know you're not going to be able to see it. Okay. This is from 2010, 2011 certified, and it's Champions insert set. And I also have the patch from this set, and I think that's numbered to 10. Mm-hmm. So I'm missing the 1 of 1 and the Emerald to 5, and I'd have the there's the auto.
That's awesome.
And I have the rainbow. So I'd really like to complete it because it's him holding the cup, and obviously being a Penguins fan in addition to being a Barrasso fan, that would be very cool. But unfortunately, I've never seen the 1 of 1 and the Emerald, which I believe is numbered to 5.
Yep.
The Swedish collector has the only copy I've ever seen. So maybe one will pop up. You never know. But that's I don't know why I haven't put them in one touches and put them in any of the frames, but those are probably my favorite cards that are in the binders.
Awesome. Well, Nick, you and I don't see eye to eye on the Matt Murray thing. It was actually funny before Nick and I really started chatting it up. I think I posted one time, like, it should be Fleury, not Murray, bad choice. And he said, no. Like, it was just one word, no. And I was like, okay, I need to reach out and see what he means. And we had a good chat about it. But you and I will always see eye to eye on my first Fleury auto that I've ever purchased. And it was back when I was still collecting baseball. And that's you'll recognize this card. So Fleury on this side and Barrasso on this side.
Nice.
I feel like that's like it was. I remember my dad, I think, was more when I bought this card. I think he was more excited at the time than I was because hockey was my first sport I ever collected, and he loved Tom Barrasso. And to find an on-card auto with both of them, I think is there only like 2 cards that exist of with both autographs on there? Just the 2 of them?
I think that. What's the other one?
I want to say that yeah, maybe, but could have been like him, Murray, and Barrasso. Like I don't know if there's any other card that just the 2 of them on there. So I was
That's the only. There's a Barrasso Murray dual auto patch, but I didn't think there was a Barrasso Flurry, which maybe there is.
There's a dual patch, it looks like, but I don't know if it's an auto. 14-15 in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's out of 50.
It's funny that you you show that card because that was the first card I ever purchased from Comsey.
Really? The autographed version of it?
That's awesome. Yeah, the number to 25. And I've got it. I have that card in a one touch in one of my boxes. But I was just looking at the non-autographed parallel. It's a super sharp card. Unfortunately, I wish they could do it. Have both the autos on the same side. Because even though I was a Murray guy, I always liked Flurry, and I would really like to have a dual Barrasso. Have more than just the one dual auto between those 2 guys.
So we might get lucky with like a Leaf product in the future because I know they have some Barrasso stuff still. They have some Flurry stuff. They don't have much, but they have a little bit. So maybe we'll get lucky and get even though it'll be a sticker, we'll get an autograph on the same side of the card with like a mem piece, like a stick or something. That would be cool. Yeah. Speaking
of Leafs and Barrasso dual autos, me and the Swedish guy were always pushing. Brian Gray, was that the owner of ITG, the CEO?
The President's Choice stuff?
Yes. We were always kind of pushing him to try to get a dual Ken Reggett and Barrasso auto.
That'd
just because, longtime Penguins, starter and backup.
That'd be awesome.
And we never got it. And Reggett's one of my all-time favorite goalies, so that would have been sweet. But unfortunately, we never got one. And I don't think
Peter Angelo.
Yep, the save.
Yeah,
I think Reggett's only got 2 in pack inserted autos. The one, he's got the one with the close up of the Batman mask from I think 95, 96. Be a Player, and then when ITG did that weird Franchises East set in 04, 05, there's one in there. I think those are the only 2.
Gotcha.
I could do it.
Huh. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. I was just watching a video on Ken Reggett. I think like he owns like a bar or sports bar or something now, doesn't he?
It's funny you mentioned that. I hadn't heard what he did like since he retired. I had no clue. And then maybe a year ago, I just, Googled it and saw that he runs a sports bar and it's pretty successful. And that's his thing right now.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like hockey players seem to be so much more accessible, even during their careers, like in their playing careers, but then post-career, they just seem to be really happy about talking about the game, playing the game. And if I were to ever think to get a player on this podcast, I think it would be so much more doable with a hockey player than it would be somebody from another sport, and you all have different connections to these players. And I think they, especially on Instagram, like Scott Gomez, Dominique Rousseau, you reach out and you tag them in Jan Rayom. I've tagged her and stuff, and like they'll come and interact with you, and like the pictures, and awesome. It's really cool. That's another aspect of the sport that I find better.
Yeah, I saw the Gomez collector has tagged Scotty Gomez a few times, and Gomez has commented on the cards. I think that's so cool. I mean, that's awesome. Like, right. I can't picture, and I'm not trying to disrespect anyone else from any sport, but I don't picture of a football player, basketball player, or baseball player, especially one like Scott Gomez, who was like a long time career. Wouldn't quite call him an all-time great, but he was a well-known player, and it's not like some random guy that just played a couple games here and there. So
right,
when I saw that was great.
Heck yeah. That's really cool. I mean, let we can end with this. I mean, trying to think. I'll start with Miles. Like Miles, if you could, out of all the guys that you collect, who do you think would be the most fun to have? You know, have in a setting like this, and just be able to talk about their cards and talk about their playing days.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, dude. Especially because you played against or met some of these guys. You know, like that's what I think is. I think you have more experience with that than any of us.
Yeah, I think Dwight King, like, you know, he was always on an energy line, but you could always just tell he was always having fun out there on the ice, and you know, he's still playing overseas, and I think that would be really interesting. I think he would be a great person to have on, and whenever he played, it was like you with Fleury, like you could tell his enthusiasm was there, and he just loved playing the sport that he loved, there's tons of guys that I think would really fit in. Like, imagine if we could get Scott Gomez or someone on here, that would just be a ton of fun, because like everyone's got a great Gomez card in their collection, and the content that he's making now is awesome and funny and great. So
right, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I think having Dwight King on and being able to tell these players, you know, show them that card and then have them say, oh man, like, let me tell you a story about that goal and all this different stuff. I feel like that would be so much fun to listen to these players tell stories through the cards that we have of them, you know. Well, what about you, Vinny? I mean, Mario Lemieux is probably a stretch. I don't think that would ever happen, but is there any other player you think that would be fun from either the Penguins or the Red Wings that would be fun to sit down and just talk cards and hear stories?
Well, it was cool. My wife met Steve Yzerman and had lunch with him, and she told him, you know, you're my husband's second favorite hockey player. and he's like, you have my attention. Who's his first? And it was Lemieux. And he was like, I'm good with falling second to him. And but I don't know, Yager'd be interesting. God, Yager'd be an interesting guy to talk to.
Oh man, no joke.
If you could get him off the ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's probably playing right now.
He probably is. I follow him on Instagram, and he's always either working out in a locker room, something. And I just think Yager would be interesting to talk to.
He's an animal.
I met him when he was in his, I said, circa 1999, 2000, somewhere in that range. And he was out to dinner somewhere, and he was having a good old time. And now it's like he did a 360. He's so serious about the sport. And he went from the young kid on the team to the leader. And you watch that progression. And now he's one of the elder statesmen of hockey when he left. Yeah. It was awesome. Sure. I just wish he would have played more in the States instead of going to Kladno, because, you know, he'd have gave Wayne a run for his money. Might not have got there, but would have been a lot closer than he was.
Absolutely.
What about you, Nick, beyond Tom Barrasso? I feel like he's definitely a little bit more approachable now. He is coaching, so he's pretty busy. But, you know, who else comes to mind?
Not just saying this because you're here, but I would love to chat with Marc-Andre Fleury, just because he's, in addition to just seeming like a genuine nice guy and good person, you know, he's a character. You know, he's got a good sense of humor, and just seems like he'd be fun. But you know, he'd be kind of a stretch. But one guy that I always liked, and he only played with the Penguins for a few years, but he actually wasn't a robot in interviews, because, you know, a lot of NHL players, they zero personality in interviews. And it's, you know, I'm not saying they got to be a jerk or, you know, talk smack about their opponent, but some of them are just robots. It's like, oh yeah, we need to get to our game. Well, our forecheck needs to be better, blah, blah, blah. But Eric Goddard always seems like, you know, the old enforcer from, I think he played in 09 through 11, maybe. He seemed like he'd be a cool guy to chat with, actually had some personality, seemed like a cool dude. So,
cool.
Probably him. Just, you know, only getting a minute or two to chat besides Fleury, he was the guy that popped into my head.
Well, Ken Reggett too came to my mind with before being a Penguins because he's doing the sports bar thing, but he just seems like when I saw the interview, he was very happy to talk about his career. He said, "I was very blessed to play with these great players and play for as long as I did." I mean, guys that weren't the primary players on their teams, but guys that had long careers, I feel like they would have so many fun stories to share. You know, about let me tell you this Lemieux story and whatnot. You know.
And if we can get sort of off topic for just about 45 seconds. Yeah. I think if Reggett would have stayed in when Barrasso returned from injury in '96, Penguins would have beat Florida in the conference finals. And who knows? Maybe they have another Stanley Cup. Maybe not. But that wasn't a good series from Barrasso against Florida. So, and Reggett was playing really good when he was hurt. So.
Well, we could definitely tie in a more recent memory of a player playing awesome in the playoffs and then somebody coming in and play. I mean, Matt Murray played amazing. Yeah. It's just, for me, it's so sad to think that Marc-Andre Fleury was killing it his last year in Pittsburgh and Matt gets put in by coach. They won, so it was the right call. I mean, you can't argue with it. But to see him end playing and winning the would have been perfect to then like hand the reins over to Murray and then go. But you know, what's happened, and they both played tremendous in the finals, and we have another cup because of it. So
yeah,
you know, I can't argue with that. I think for me, it's easy though with that question is Jocelyn Thibault, because he seems to be very, very nice. He's very, like, you send him stuff and he mails it back to you. I've been waiting to do that for like a year, and I guess I want to write him a letter and talk about different things. But having him on here and talking about, like, the guy had a ton of cards, but he had amazing setups. You know, his masks very, like, a lot of personality, and so to talk about with him what he thinks about those and if he still has them. Looking back on his career, you know, had the trade not happened or something along those lines, hypothetically, what he thinks. And yeah, there's a really cool Be a Player episode on YouTube where he is on there. Jocelyn Thibault's on there, and he's just a super down-to-earth guy. And, you know, he'd be fun to talk to for sure. No doubt.
100%. Yeah.
So cool. Well, we've reached an hour and a half. I think we've had a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun for me. I think the pacing was a little bit better, more on the terms of what we had envisioned when we thought of this. So, Nick, it was awesome to bring you on here. It's awesome to just meet new people from the Instagram community, man. I think there's so many collectors out there that are, you know, enthusiastic and down to earth guys like yourself that are fun to chat with. So, thanks for taking the time, man.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's nice to get a face to this collection too. You know what I mean? I think we see some of these cards. It's like, man, what is this person like? So another easygoing person. For sure. Well, we'll have to have you back again next time we talk, whether it's about goalies or something. I mean, if you'd be willing at some point.
Absolutely. I joke with people that I work with all the time because none of them care about cards. I tell them that I could chat about cards for hours with anybody. So
awesome.
I will certainly be back if I'm invited.
Awesome. Thank you. That'd be great. Well, Miles, thanks for taking the time. Glad it worked out with your work schedule, dude. It was awesome to have you back. Thanks for that. Yeah, hope you're able to. There's a certain card I can't wait to see. I think you and I chatted about it that you recently picked up that I really want you to talk about because it was a pretty sweet addition. We also need to get that guy on here so you can talk about scoring on him while you're showing his card to everybody.
Oh man!
But that would be really cool. I mean, you've got a really interesting set that you're trying to put together of that player, and that'd be really cool to see it all together. You know,
the problem with all the minor hockey guys is either they don't remember you, or they remember how much of a nerd you were those years. So it's a double-edged sword.
That's kind of funny. You just got to wait till you get into like your 50s and like nobody cares anymore at that point. Yeah. That's funny. Well, Vinny, thanks for taking the time to come here. Nice to have you back after the wedding last week. And
absolutely.
Yep. Look forward to hearing from you next time we do this. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.